I didn't even realize my hands were shaking until my coffee spilled over the employee handbook, the same one that told me to always maintain a positive attitude. That's the moment it hit me. I was about to lose everything because I didn't smile enough. My name's Elena Moore, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I'd finally found the dream job. Marketing associate at Brightleaf Brands, a company that bragged about being a family, not a workplace. I was the type who triple-checked every email, stayed late to help teammates meet deadlines, and brought cupcakes on birthdays. I wasn't loud or bubbly like some, but I delivered results. Every single time. And my boss, Tracy, used to love that about me. She was the kind of manager people admired. Sharp suits, sharper smile, a calm voice that made you want her approval. She'd tell me things like, "You're my rock, Elena. You make this place run." She'd confide in me about her divorce, ask for my help before big presentations, and tell everyone she wished she had 10 Elenas. I believed her. Maybe that's why it hurt so much when things started shifting. It began small. Tracy started giving me these tight, polite smiles, the kind that didn't reach her eyes. She'd praise others in meetings for ideas I'd pitched first. She'd forget to CC me on projects I was supposed to lead. Then came the new HR director, Madison, all glossy hair and motivational quotes. "We're focusing on company culture," she said during orientation, flashing a grin so wide it looked painful. She started running these bizarre smile check sessions, where she'd literally rate our friendliness on a 1 to 5 scale. I laughed it off at first. Everyone did. But Tracy didn't. She started keeping notes, actual notes, on people's attitudes. She'd call it tracking engagement. I told myself it was harmless, that maybe I was overthinking. Until the day she called me into her office, closed the blinds, and said, "Elena, there's been some feedback about your demeanor." That word, demeanor, still makes my stomach twist. Tracy smiled, soft but strange, like she was rehearsing. "You're excellent at your work. But some feel you come across as unapproachable. Maybe try smiling more? Just to keep morale up." I remember nodding, forcing a laugh, promising I'd work on it. But as I left her office, something in her tone lingered, a little too rehearsed, a little too final. Like this wasn't advice. It was a warning. And I had no idea how much worse it was about to get. The next morning, I practiced my smile in the mirror before heading to work. It felt ridiculous, fake, even, but I told myself it was just part of playing the game. That's what Tracy had always said. Perception is everything, Elena. Even if you don't feel it, project it. So I did. I smiled at everyone. I laughed at jokes that weren't funny. I joined the morning cheer circle Madison introduced. Yes, that was a real thing now. For 15 minutes each morning, we stood in a circle, clapping and chanting, "We're the light. We're the brand." It was embarrassing, but everyone seemed to go along with it. Except me. Or at least, that's how it felt. Because no matter what I did, Tracy's eyes lingered on me longer than anyone else's. Her smile seemed forced now, tight and watchful. When Madison passed by my desk, she'd do this little tilt of her head, as if studying a problem she couldn't quite name. Then the emails started. Just a quick reminder to stay upbeat today. Team morale is so much better when everyone is smiling. Keep it up, Elena. At first, I thought they were sent to the whole team. But when I checked, I realized they weren't. They were just to me. The first red flag. I showed one to my coworker, Jamie, hoping for reassurance. "Maybe she's just encouraging you," she said, but her eyes flicked away, like she didn't believe it either. Later that week, I caught a glimpse of Tracy and Madison in the break room. They stopped talking the moment I entered. Madison smiled too wide again and said, "Oh, hey, sunshine." Then Tracy laughed, but it wasn't the warm laugh I used to know. It was short, almost mocking. Something in my chest tightened. I started second-guessing everything. My tone in meetings, my emails, even how long I held eye contact. I'd never been anxious before, but suddenly, I felt like every move I made was being judged. And then one morning, my login didn't work. Just a system error, IT said. But when I walked past Tracy's office, I saw my name on a printed list, employee culture notes. There were red marks beside it. When I asked about it later, Tracy smiled that same strange smile. Oh, that. Just performance tracking. Don't worry. Don't worry. But that night, I sat in bed, staring at my phone, rereading her words. Performance tracking. Stay upbeat. Project positivity. Each one sounded more like surveillance than support. Something was changing at Brightleaf, and it wasn't just me losing my smile. It was the company losing its mask. I still remember the sound my phone made when the email came through, that soft little ping that would change everything. My stomach dropped. It wasn't even the usual time for reviews, and Tracy had been avoiding me all week. Still, I tried to stay calm. Maybe this was just a check-in, maybe even good news. I'd been working harder than ever, forcing myself to be positive. I'd done everything they asked. But when I walked into that conference room, Tracy wasn't alone. Madison sat beside her, tablet in hand, smile perfectly frozen in place. Please, take a seat, Tracy said. Her voice was polite, distant. The kind of voice she used on clients, not people she once called friends. She slid a folder toward me. My name was printed neatly at the top. Inside, there were pages, screenshots of internal chats, pictures of me in meetings, notes in red ink. Madison cleared her throat. We've received multiple reports about your negativity. My mouth went dry. Negativity. Tracy avoided my eyes. It's been noticed that you rarely smile. You tend to keep to yourself, and that can be discouraging for the team. I stared at her, trying to process it. You're serious? I've never missed a deadline. I've trained half this department. How does that make me negative? Tracy's fingers tightened on her pen. It's not about your work, Elena. It's about energy. Culture. You're not a fit anymore. That word, fit, echoed in my head. Madison handed me a paper to sign. Voluntary resignation for morale misalignment. My pulse hammered in my ears. You're firing me, I whispered. For not smiling enough. Tracy finally looked up then, and for a second, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Guilt? No, it was relief. That's when I noticed a name at the bottom of the HR form. The person replacing me. Jamie Reynolds. My coworker. My friend. The one who'd listened nodded, said, maybe she's just encouraging you. The one Tracy had been mentoring lately. My throat burned. So this is it. You groomed me to make this place perfect, then replaced me with someone who'll fake a smile better. Madison sighed. Let's not make this emotional. But it was emotional. Because as I gathered my things, no one looked at me. Not one person I'd helped, covered for, supported. It was like I'd already been erased. When I reached the lobby, I caught my reflection in the glass doors. Eyes red, lips trembling, but no tears yet. Just silence. And in that silence, something inside me hardened. They wanted me to smile? Fine. I'd give them a reason to. I don't remember driving home that day. I just remember the quiet. No music. No thoughts. Just the hum of the road and the weight of humiliation pressing against my chest. When I finally stepped inside my apartment, I dropped everything. My bag, my badge, that stupid Brightleaf family mug Tracy had given me on my first day. It shattered against the tile, and I just stared at it. That mug used to mean something. Now it was just broken glass and a logo that made me sick. I sank onto the couch and let it all hit me. The betrayal, the disbelief, the shame. I'd given years to that company. I'd skipped vacations, missed family dinners, worked through the flu because Tracy said she needed me. And the moment I wasn't shiny enough for her image, she tossed me aside like trash. 4 hours, I sat there replaying it. Her calm voice, Madison's fake smile, the HR form already printed with Jamie's name. They didn't decide that morning. They'd planned it. That realization hurt worse than being fired. I cried until I couldn't anymore. Then came the numbness, that hollow gray silence where even grief feels too heavy. But then, sometime around 2 a.m., I picked up the folder they'd given me, my so-called performance report. I don't even know why I looked at it again. Maybe I needed to understand. Maybe I just needed closure. Inside, tucked between the printed screenshots, was something I hadn't noticed before. A small sticky note with Tracy's handwriting. HR wants examples for policy rollout. Use Elena's case to demonstrate compliance. My breath caught. Use Elena's case. It wasn't personal. It was a performance. They had used me, my career, my reputation, to test their ridiculous new smile policy. I was their experiment. Their scapegoat. Something inside me snapped, but not in the way I expected. The fear, the confusion, the heartbreak. All of it burned away, leaving something sharper, clearer. For the first time in weeks, I sat up straight. I remembered every late-night email I'd written, every spreadsheet I'd built, every private message Tracy had sent me, the ones that blurred the lines between boss and friend. I still had them all. Proof of her manipulations, her hypocrisy. Proof that she had lied to HR, and to everyone else. My tears dried on my cheeks as a cold calm settled over me. If Brightleaf wanted to make an example out of me, fine. But they were about to learn what happens when the example fights back. I whispered it aloud, my voice steady this time, not angry, not broken. Just certain. I'm not done. I learned fast that revenge isn't fireworks. It's scaffolding, slow, careful, engineered so the whole thing comes down exactly when you want it to. I pulled every file I'd ever touched, archived emails, old project folders, private Slack threads, calendar invites where Tracy had looped me in with extra familiar notes. I found the chats where she'd asked me to handle sensitive questions before exec meetings. I pulled screenshots of Madison's smile metrics, slides from onboarding, and the PDFs of the new policy that no one had actually signed. I photocopied the sticky note, the one that said, use Elena's case to demonstrate compliance. And circle highlighted Tracy's handwriting like a target. You don't topple a building alone. I messaged former teammates I'd kept on good terms, people who'd left under odd circumstances. One by one they answered, terse at first, then talkative. A junior designer admitted she'd been pressured to fake enthusiasm during client calls. A former HR coordinator confessed they'd been told to soften terminations into voluntary resignations. Names, dates, off-the-record confirmations. I saved their voice notes, their texts, their shaky screenshots. I learned how to read email headers, how to pull deleted messages from cloud backups, how to match timestamps between our internal chat and Tracy's calendar. I reconvened the folder into a neat, damning timeline. Intent, action, cover-up. Each file fit like bone in a skeleton. Jamie was the easiest and the hardest piece. She'd been friendly, maybe even foolishly loyal. I watched her social media, harmless brunch photos, vague posts about new opportunities. I didn't attack her. I crafted a way to make her own ambition reveal the truth. An anonymous tip about a promotion audit that would require her to verify the training rollouts she'd been part of. Curiosity would make her dig. Digging would expose what she'd known and when. If she tried to save herself, she'd pull the thread Tracy had woven, and the whole seam would come apart. I filed a formal complaint with the External Labor Board, not a shout, but a sealed envelope in the right hands. I drafted a quiet, factual memo addressed to Brightleaf's parent company and the board, outlining policy misuse, fabricated morale metrics, and coerced resignations. No melodrama. No emotional appeals. Just facts, dates, and paper that could not be smoothed away. Through it all, I practiced a new face. Patient, unhurried, difficult to rile. My anger was a lens now, focusing energy instead of blinding it. I spoke to people calmly, made meetings sound routine while I set the dominoes. The hardest part was pretending it didn't matter, letting Tracy believe she'd won. She posted photos from the holiday party with Jamie front and center, gushing about culture champions. Madison shared a training rollout timeline like a victory lap. They looked safe. They looked untouchable. But the folder on my kitchen table was heavy with proof, and the line of quiet people waiting to corroborate it was long. I had the complaint in hand and the board contact queued. I had Jamie's curiosity nudged and the external investigator's phone number bookmarked. I sat down that night, looked at the printed timeline, and felt the calm click of something precise and inevitable snapping into place. Okay, I whispered to the empty apartment. Let's make them cry. Outside, the city lights blinked like nothing had happened. Inside, a storm button sat under my thumb. They told me the board meeting would be private. They lied, and that lie did more of the work for me than any dramatics ever could. The Labor Board's investigator had finished her interview bundle and sent a crisp summary to the parent company. The memo to the board wasn't theatrical. It listed dates, emails, witness statements, and the sticky note with Tracy's handwriting that said, "Use Elena's case." That little square of yellow paper was the match. Brightleaf called an emergency all hands under the banner of Culture Review. The auditorium smelled like cheap coffee and fear. Tracy sat at the front, impeccable blazer, smile practiced to a T. Madison flanked her like a mascot. Jamie sat one row in front of me, face pale. They still believed they were untouchable. I hadn't planned to be there. But when the CEO announced he'd asked an independent investigator to speak, I stood and walked up to the stage, folder in hand. My pulse was steady. My hands no longer shook. "Before we begin," I said, and the room quieted so fast I could hear my own breath, "I think you should hear from one of the people affected." I laid the timeline on the lectern. Faces turned. Whispers rose like a tide. I spoke slowly, reading the dates and the messages, but not dramatizing. The power of it wasn't my fury. It was the machine-like clarity of the evidence. Who'd written which email, who'd pushed the culture metrics, who'd recommended voluntary resignations as a softer way to terminate. I played the voice notes. I showed the header metadata that proved the chain of command. I let Jamie's own messages, the ones she'd sent to me in a panic when Tracy asked her to verify training attendance, appear on screen. When I said the sticky note line out loud, "Use Elena's case to demonstrate compliance," there was a breathless hush. That note was the proof that this had been deliberate, not incidental. Madison's hand trembled. Tracy's smile flickered, then collapsed into something small and animal. The CEO asked them to step down while they review the findings. The phrase was polite. The faces were not. Then something quieter and sharper happened. Madison, the architect of the smile metrics, looked out over the room and began to cry. Not a practiced tear, but the kind that rips suddenly through practiced control. Her mascara ran. Her voice broke when she tried to explain the algorithms, the spreadsheets she'd shown the execs that didn't match what she'd actually used. HR, the supposed guardian of dignity, was undone by its own metrics. Tracy stood up, probably to salvage something, and found no audience. People I'd covered for, mentored, stayed late to help. They looked at her like she'd been speaking in a foreign language. The loyalty she'd traded in was gone. She gathered her bag like a woman collecting props after a play. Then she left the stage alone. Outside the auditorium, cameras I hadn't invited asked questions I didn't answer. The parent company announced an immediate audit. Jamie's promotion evaporated. Madison was placed on leave. Tracy was escorted to HR's now empty office to collect her things. I watched them stumble away with that small human ruin that mirrors ambition. Bright on the outside, hollow inside. Madison's tears were not just pain. They were a public undoing of every manufactured smile she'd ever required. She'd sold morale like a product. The product failed. When it was over, the room was so quiet I could hear the hum of the projector cooling. I folded my evidence and slipped it into my bag. For a long moment I stood there, not triumphant, just very, very tired. Then, quietly, I touched the edge of my lip where the mug had shattered months ago and let the tiniest genuine smile cross my face. Small, unforced, and mine. It's strange how quiet life becomes when the noise of pretending finally stops. A month after the hearing, I walked past the Brightleaf building for the first time since everything fell apart. The lobby banners were gone, no more "We're the Light" slogans or fake culture posters. The glass doors reflected a company stripped bare. I heard they shut down Madison's entire Smile Metrics program after the audit. The parent company issued a public apology, calling it a regrettable lapse in judgment. Corporate speak for "we got caught." Madison resigned soon after, but the photos from her farewell email leaked. Eyes red, face swollen, still trying to hold that PR perfect grin. As for Tracy, she didn't go quietly. She fought to the end, tried to spin it as a misunderstanding, but when HR emails surfaced showing her coaching others to fake documentation, her name hit the news. Brightleaf manager fired for toxic culture scandal. I read the headline once. Then I stopped checking. People still message me, old coworkers, even strangers, thanking me for speaking up. Some said they finally felt seen. Others said they left too, chasing jobs that didn't ask them to smile on command. For a while, I wasn't sure what came next. Revenge doesn't give you your old life back. It just clears the rubble so you can start again. I found a small marketing agency a few cities over. Different energy entirely. Quiet office, genuine laughter that doesn't sound rehearsed. My boss now cares about deadlines, not facial expressions. Sometimes when someone cracks a joke, I catch myself smiling. Not because I have to, but because I want to. It still hits me sometimes. The way people you trust can twist kindness into control. But I also learned something. Silence is power, if you learn when to break it. Last week, a package arrived. No return label. Inside was my old Brightleaf mug, glued back together. Clumsily, unevenly, but whole. No note. Just the mug. I don't know who sent it. Maybe someone who finally understood. I set it on my desk, not as a reminder of pain, but proof that cracks don't ruin something, they just make it real. When I left Brightleaf that last day, I thought I'd lost everything. Turns out, I only lost what was fake. And now, when I smile, it's mine. Have you ever been betrayed by someone who made you doubt your own worth? A boss, a friend, maybe even family? Tell me your story in the comments. Let's remind the world that kindness isn't weakness, it's power when it's real. And if you want to hear more true-to-life revenge stories like this one, subscribe. Because sometimes, justice deserves a spotlight.